Wait, hold up. Knowing about your motherboard is extremely important. This is the heart of your computer. And if you know the basics, you're going to make better decisions when you go out there and buy a motherboard. Whatever your use case is, you can use it as a future-proof computer, main computer. Maybe you want a test bench motherboard, and knowing how to pick it is going to help you tremendously. You're going to know which components you can plug in. You're going to buy the right components when you buy them off the web instead of buying something and having to return it because you don't know what you're doing. So in this video, I want to explain the basics, what the ports are, how we plug some of the components into this motherboard, and things to consider if you want to buy a motherboard. It is important you don't have to be an expert. You just have to understand the basics. And we'll cover some of those in this video. So let's get to it. This is my motherboard. This is a H370M HDB 1151 socket motherboard. Now, we're going to cover the video in different sections. First, we're going to cover power requirements for your motherboard. We're going to cover components, and we're going to cover I/O ports at the end. So we'll cover as much as we can so that you can understand the basics of this motherboard so that you understand and can make better decisions in the future regarding your components. Now, everybody has to at least be aware of what their motherboard has, the type of socket. If you know the type of socket, in this case 1151, you'll know that it supports certain CPUs. In this case, this motherboard supports Intel 8 and 9 generation CPUs with an 1151 socket. Okay, this is my Intel Core i3-9100F, and this CPU has an integrated graphics card. Basically, it's embedded into the CPU, the graphics card, and it allows you to connect directly to this HDMI. Otherwise, you would need a dedicated graphics card, something like this, to be able to set it up. So in my case, I don't need a graphics card, but I'm not going to be able to do highly intensive video stuff with this graphics card. If you want to game, you need a dedicated graphics card. If you want to game and do some other high intensive editing, maybe play a high-end game, you're going to need a dedicated graphics card because these integrated graphics cards on the CPU are not as strong. But for surfing the web, YouTube, and all that kind of stuff, it's more than enough. And basically, once you know you have the proper CPU, it's really easy to attach it. All motherboards have indicators with the CPU on how to attach it. You just sit it in there, make sure it's tightly in place, at least for the 1151 CPUs, and you can see how it's holding it in place. Now, I'm just going to keep it in here for the video. But like I said, if you wanted to use this along with the dedicated graphics card, you can, and you would use the PCIe slot on the motherboard. Now, we said we were going to cover in the first part of the video power requirements. Every motherboard is different. Some motherboards have two 8-pin, some have 4 plus 8-pin. This one has a 8-pin 12-volt CPU power. And you connect this one with your PSU. Your PSU should have the connection to plug into here, and I'll show you how it looks. You see there, CPU. You see the locking part is on this side. All you have to do is you connect it into here, just like that. That's how you provide that voltage. But in this case, you can see that it has a 24-pin in here, and this one provides multiple voltages for the motherboard, for the RAM, for other components, for PCIe, for PCIe X1. It's going to supply voltage to here, and the motherboard is going to distribute it to all the components and chipsets around the motherboard so it can work efficiently. Now, your PSU will have the 24-pin connection. Just make sure you research before you start buying stuff on the internet. Now, that is mainly the power requirements on a motherboard. Most of them are not going to be too complicated. You're going to have CPU side, you're going to have one on this side, and then you're going to have all your connections for your components inside. So let's go move on to the second part of the video. Now, you have in here, you can see along the edges, you have different type of connections, right? All these ones. Now, I'm not an expert, and you most likely are not an expert. Maybe you are. But you can see here, CPU fan right here. It has 4 pins. The fourth pin, if you see 3, it does not allow you to regulate the fan speed. But if it has 4, it allows you to regulate the fan speed. Now, this one has another fan connection as well. And after here, you're going to see this connection for your USBs on your computer case, normally on the front side of the computer. You have more USB interfaces here. You have SATA. And just so you know, this is for data, for your storage device. This is data. If you want to supply power, remember, you got a PSU power supply, and your power supply normally comes with your SATA connections. You'll see here, it has multiple. Look at that. It has like 4 connections here to power your SSD or HDD, whatever you have. Just know you can use these ones for data and the ones on your PSU to power your drive. And you have other connections here as well. This is for your power buttons and LEDs. You also have audio, HD audio here as well. You also have a TPM, which I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you can attach a TPM module into this one. And you also have a BIOS PH, which I believe it allows you to have a secondary ROM configuration or configuration for BIOS. But don't mind these ones, because these ones is more advanced. You will need to know about these ones, just audio and your power connections, your button and whatnot. Know about these, but these ones are not that important unless you're trying to learn more advanced stuff. And usually your PCIe slots come in 1X, 4X, 8X, and 16. This one is 16X because it's meant for a graphics card, for a dedicated graphics card, like I mentioned before. And this one is meant for more like a TV tuner, Ethernet adapter. Basically, if you connect here an Ethernet adapter, you can have 2 Ethernet connections like this one. You can have a video card in and out HDMI and other things, a sound card and other stuff. Now, if you see this heatsink on your cards, normally something that some of the cards used to have, they used to have a north bridge and a south bridge. The south bridge would allow the communication from the PCIe lanes to move here, and then it would transfer it over to the north bridge. Basically, it was 2 chips. Now there's no north bridge. Sometimes they integrate it into the slot here so that it can just go directly from here to here. And I think that's what's happening here. It doesn't have a north bridge, but it's integrated somewhere along this motherboard in this area here with the CPU. So this one allows quick to seamlessly connect communication from all your interfaces from your PCIe lanes over here, and then sends it over for communication. And from here, basically RAM, it goes here, and it allows your computer to work and transfer information and communicate with all the components without too much hassle and without too much trouble. So this is just a chip that relays communication. It's called PCH, Platform Control, or PCM, Platform Control Module, something like that. And basically, knowing these things is going to allow you to know how many PCIe lanes you have. Maybe you want more than this. You would have to look into the size of the motherboard. This is a micro ITX motherboard. There's mini, micro, ATX, and extended ATX. And I'll put a picture in here, and you can see here how it differs if you want a larger motherboard in your computer case. which larger motherboards are going to give you more opportunities to connect different components, have a larger amount of components and more components to be attached to your computer so that you can do more. If you care about footprint and you want something small, you would have to go with the mini ITX or micro ITX, whatever your needs are, you choose it depending on that. And also, you got to know if you're going to have power hungry components, you may need larger power supplies. The one I showed you is 600 watts, but there's 1200, there's 1500, there's larger power supplies out there. So now that we've looked at the components inside, we forgot to look at the RAM. This one has DDR4 RAM, 2 lanes. You can connect one or you can connect two. This one has up to 64 gigabyte support, but um, having if you've never connected a RAM stick before, it's pretty easy. You just put it in here, make sure you open it up and you put it in the right slot. Otherwise, it's not going to turn on. And you got to make sure you put it on the right orientation. Put it in and then push it in, and you heard that click and how it's set in there. This is just 8 gigabytes, but you can have up to 64 in here. And you have all your MOSFETs and capacitors on the motherboard. Don't worry about that. But I don't know if you may have seen this. This is your coin battery. This coin battery allows you to maintain the settings from the BIOS. If you change something, this battery allows you to keep those settings and remember them because the battery is keeping a hold of those settings. If you do a change and then your computer is not turning on because you changed a setting, maybe you added XMP and then it messed up your computer, you would have to go and short 2 connectors on the battery, but this one doesn't seem to have one. So what you would do is you would go in here, remove this battery, you discharge your computer button, you press it, and it's going to discharge all the power on the computer, and then that what it's going to do is going to erase and forget all your settings on your BIOS, which is going to make it technically back to its normal settings. And then you install this again, and if you mess something up and it wasn't turning on before, now it's going to be able to turn on. Now, behind the motherboard, I have this plate for my specific heatsink for my CPU. I removed the one that came in and I attached my own, and I have a thermal take or thermal something peerless assassin, and it basically allows me to connect it here so that I can cool the CPU. Now we covered most of this stuff: PCIe's, power. This is your USB connections and all your other stuff to know the basics of your motherboard. Now let's look at the in-out ports. Basically, if you want more, you would probably have to pay a little bit more. And this is a $70 motherboard. This one has USB 2.0. It has USB and keyboard, the older legacy connection, VGA, which is video, DVI, which is video, HDMI for integrated graphics card on your CPU. This one does have that. USB 3.0 Ethernet connection to the internet. It doesn't have Wi-Fi. USB 2.0 audio jacks, and then whatever you expand with these connections. For example, you want to have a dedicated graphics card with your integrated GPU, you can have that. You just put it in here, and then your case now is going to look like this. Now you're going to have these connections because it's connected via PCIe. Now this card doesn't require a PSU connection because it's a very low wattage card. It only has 2 gigabytes. But if we get a bigger card, a beefier card, kind of like this, it's going to require its own power going directly to the graphics card. And you can see here it requires an 8-pin and it connects to the PCIe slot just like this one. This one has 8 gigabytes. This one has 2 gigabytes. So if you want to play more intensive games, you would need to have a something better than this one. You remove it, and then something I want to cover is this is a motherboard for a laptop. These ones usually come with a CPU and integrated CPU. If it's a gaming um, laptop, it might come with most likely it's going to come with the integrated GPU, but it's going to be soldered into a separate spot on the motherboard. So CPU and then the motherboard, CPU into the motherboard, and then the GPU like soldered into another part of the motherboard. You have your RAM, and then this is your M.2 slot, and then you screw it in here. So you stick it in there and then lay it down. This is how it looks, and it looks like this one, which is where this is where the Wi-Fi card goes into here, and now you would have a you will now be able to use Wi-Fi with this. And like I said, this is a laptop, so most laptops have Wi-Fi cards because they're meant to be on the road and need to be able to connect to multiple places. And you can see the HDMI if you want to have a second screen. And let's say you don't have a Wi-Fi card like this one. If you want to set it up and the only thing around is Wi-Fi, you can always use one of these handy USB Wi-Fi adapters. You would connect it into here. And then now you would be able to download drivers and updates from your nearest Wi-Fi access point. So this is some basic and quick information about motherboards. If you don't know anything about motherboards, I really think this video is going to benefit you because you get to see how some of this stuff connects. You can see how it plugs in. You can see that you can remove the battery to reset BIOS settings and how to connect it to a case. And we're going to be doing more builds in the future. But as of right now, it's kind of hard to get a hold of too many components because of my channel size. But in the future, I'm hoping I can continue to grow and I can continue to improve my content. But if you guys have any questions regarding any of this, do send me a message and ask me any questions. If you want to see how to attach, for example, the plates to attach your heatsink for cooling your CPU. I mean, it's really easy. You just for example, here this plate, it attaches on the back, and then you screw it in with these guys, and now the heatsink connects into this ones. You got to make sure you have thermal paste, of course. But if you understand the basics and how the general look of your motherboard, a lot of them are going to share the same looks and details, and a lot of the stuff is going to be pretty standard across the board. So most of them are going to look like this. If you enjoy the video and you learn something good about motherboards and how to understand them, let me know. I hope you all have a nice day, and I hope you guys continue to like and subscribe and keep sending me comments because I enjoy the whole process. I hope you all have a nice day. See you all later.